How are the Red Sox doing injury-wise to start the 2024 season? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and is anyone else exhausted yet? These West Coast trips absolutely kill me sometimes, especially when they bring in the Oakland Athletics into the 11th inning. Last night was a long game, but either way, that's not what we're talking about today, because today what we're doing is we're doing our monthly roundup of the Red Sox IL. With the Red Sox starting the 2024 season, they actually had quite a few notable names start the year on the injured list, including guys like Vaughn Grissom, Refsnyder, Chris Murphy, and more. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through every Red Sox injured player, talk about where they are in their rehab, when they could be expected back, and all the latest news and updates on their injury. But before we get into that, do me a favor, if you haven't already, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button. We talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Plus, did you know Red Seat Radio is now available on Spotify as well as YouTube? That's right. If you want to listen to these episodes instead of watch these episodes, that option is now available. If you head over to Spotify using the link in the description down below, you can now listen to every single Red Seat episode. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. All right, so I think the best way to do this to kick off the first injury update of the year is to start with the most notable names and then just sort of work our way down this list, starting with Vaughn Grissom, who, as many of you know, started the year on the 10-day IL with a groin strain that he suffered in spring training. And there is sort of good news on this front. Alex Cora spoke with the media on April 1st, just a couple of days ago, about where Grissom was in his injury rehab. He is ramping things up pretty quickly down in Fort Myers. The goal right now, according to Alex Cora, is that he's going to join the team for opening day. He's not going to be available to play. He's just going to enjoy the festivities, which I actually really like that idea. A rookie who really hasn't had the opportunity to experience Fenway Park in a Red Sox uniform, a guy who is probably going to have some significant playing time with the Red Sox, getting a taste of Fenway Park. I really like that idea. And then after that, he is going to go down to either Worcester or Portland, whichever one has the longest homestand going forward, and he's going to begin his rehab assignment. The goal right now in terms of coming back to the major leagues is sometime mid-late April. My guess is that they're probably aiming for that week of the 22nd for Grissom's official return to Major League Baseball and the Boston Red Sox. Now, what's interesting about Grissom is what role he's going to have once he gets back onto the team, right? Because I think the assumption is that he's just going to take over the starter role, but I do think Enmanuel Valdez over these next couple of weeks does have the opportunity to really put his name into this consideration to be the starting second baseman. So I'm really curious as to what kind of role Vaughn Grissom comes back into. Is it directly back into basically an everyday starter for the Red Sox, or does he start as a bench type role and have to earn his way into that starting position? I guess that's something we're going to have to see. Honestly, my guess is that he starts with a bench role. The second name on this list is Refsnyder, who, as many of you know, again, broke his toe in spring training and ended up starting the year on the 10-day IL. This one is actually really interesting because, surprisingly, at least to me, he's basically on the same trajectory as Vaughn Grissom. He's also going to be joining the team come opening day per Alex Cora, which, again, I really like that idea. And then, just like Vaughn Grissom, he's also going to be starting his rehab assignment the day after opening day ends. And again, he's trying to get back to this team probably around the exact same time as Vaughn Grissom, which personally I think is pretty impressive after a broken toe. But just like Grissom too, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of role Refsnyder ends up in once he's back and healthy with this team. He doesn't have any options left, so he can't start in the minor leagues. So where do the Red Sox put him on this team? My guess is that if Wilyer Abreu continues to struggle at the big league level, they sort of swap those two out and let Wilyer Abreu sort of get right in AAA. But at the same time too, with Vaughn Grissom coming back back around the same time, that gives the Red Sox basically all right-handed hitters off the bench, with your only lefty really being Reese McGuire, and that could be a bit of an issue for Alex Cora when it comes to his bench versatility. So I don't really know where Rob Refsnyder fits in with this. Cesar Rafaela is struggling at the plate a little bit after a hot start in Seattle, but at the same time too, that defense is more than warranted at the major league level. Tyler O'Neill looks really good. Jarren Duran is really productive. Masa has been productive lately out of the DH spot, so it's going to be an interesting squeeze to get Rob Refsnyder onto this roster, and is definitely something I'm going to be paying attention to once he gets closer to major league ready. The next person on this list is Chris Murphy, and this is kind of unfortunate news for Chris. He did end up starting the year on the 60-day IL with ligament issues in his left arm, the arm that he uses to pitch. I would be surprised if we saw Chris Murphy at all this year. We haven't had much of an update about where Chris Murphy is in his rehab or what's going on with his injury for the past couple of weeks, but the last thing we heard is that the Red Sox are fearing that this is a high-grade tear on his ulnar collateral ligament, which is basically a Tommy John surgery, and if that is the case, yeah, he's probably not coming back this year. Again, no real word on whether or not he's going to need surgery or if he's going through a different type of rehab or anything like that. I don't have that information for you, but what I will say is, yeah, I would be pretty shocked to see Chris Murphy in a Red Sox uniform at any point this year, which really sucks, right? Because in my opinion, going into the 2024 season, I really thought Chris Murphy had the opportunity here to really sort of solidify himself as a solid left-handed option in the Red Sox bullpen, and he certainly would have been more productive than Joely Rodriguez, who I think, if healthy, Brendan Bernardino probably starts the year on the team. Joely's probably a free agent, and Chris Murphy's probably in AAA as depth, which is super interesting to think about, right? Because if that had happened, I wonder what this team's record looks like right now, but that's besides the point. Chris Murphy probably not in a Red Sox uniform this season. Outside of those three, you've got others like Liam Hendriks, who continues his rehab. One cool thing is that he's marking 10 years of Major League service tomorrow, which is really awesome to see. Monday, he was able to throw from 90 feet for the first time since his surgery. He's still aiming to make his way back to the Boston Red Sox in August. That's still his goal, and that's still the timeline that's being set by doctors and professionals in the system. We'll see how that goes. I think there's always some bumps and bruises on the road back from Tommy John surgery, so I'm still not entirely expecting him to be a significant contributor for the Boston Red Sox in 2024, but Liam Hendriks is also an absolute dog, and I could see him making his way back in August and helping this team possibly push for a playoffs. At least that would be the hope. Some really good news is that Zack Kelly ended up not even really needing the injured list to start the 2024 season. He was pretty much day to day all throughout spring training with that oblique injury that he suffered, but he was ready to go and start the year in Worcester. He was optioned down there to begin the season, and he looks pretty solid on the mound. Now, it is just one appearance with 2 innings. He did walk quite a few batters, but he was striking out a decent amount. His stuff looked pretty decent, and I could see him as an impact player on the Red Sox at some point this season, especially once we get down to injuries and stuff like that. But the fact that the Red Sox now have Zack Kelly as a depth option in AAA, someone who's healthy and ready to go, is a really, really good sign for the Red Sox. And I absolutely love Zack Kelly. I think he's a great person and a really solid pitcher with a lot of potential. So I hope we do see him at some point this year. And speaking of AAA and prospects, there was some really tough news for one of the Red Sox former top prospects, Noah Song, over the last couple of weeks. It was announced that he was going to be undergoing Tommy John surgery, effectively ending at least his 2024 season, if not most of his 2025 season as well. And you got to feel for Noah Song here at some point, right? Because his career has been all over the place. Starts with the Red Sox, looks really good, has to go serve his time in the Navy, ends up getting a release from the Navy to continue baseball, drafted by the Phillies, doesn't work out with the Phillies, comes back to Boston, starting to ramp up again just to get shut down with an injury. It's been all over the place for Noah, so my hope is that he can get back from this Tommy John surgery as fast as humanly possible. What's going to be really interesting is how the Red Sox utilize him when he does get back. He'll be reaching towards his age 30 season at that point. He'll be a guy who does have some starter potential, but is more than likely going to be a reliever. How do the Red Sox deal with him once he gets back from his injury is going to be a really fascinating story at some point in the future. And finally, Bryan Mata, who I know a lot of you guys have been asking about, at least in live streams. Started the year on the 15-day IL with that hamstring injury that he suffered this spring training, and right now his goal is to get back to this team, or at least the timeline that's been set out is May. And in my opinion, the Red Sox are really going to take their time with this one, because as many of you know, once Bryan Mata is fully healthy and ready to go, he has no more options left. So the Red Sox either need to add him to this 26-man roster, or they need to DFA him, and that's going to be a bit of a tricky conversation, especially with how well the Red Sox bullpen has been performing early on this season. If they continue to do that and there aren't really any injuries or anything crazy like that in the bullpen, I have a hard time seeing where Bryan Mata fits in, and it's more than likely going to end up in him being DFA'd from the Boston Red Sox and most likely picked up by another team. So my guess is that the Red Sox are pushing this off as far as humanly possible in hopes that this sort of works itself out. The last thing we heard about his actual rehab status is that he was throwing bullpens a couple of weeks ago, so it looks like he is ramping up pretty well. But again, I really think the Red Sox are going to take their time with this one, make sure he is absolutely fully healthy and ready to go before they actually make this decision. So I could see this ending up being a late May, early June type decision for the Boston Red Sox. And right now, that's all we got for injuries. In my opinion, knock on wood, these aren't super terrible. All of them suck, and you don't want anyone on your injured list, but in terms of the impact this is having on the Red Sox, so far it's pretty minimal. You've been able to make up the difference of the guys who are currently on the injured list and figure out ways to win without them, which is always a really good sign. Obviously, this team will look a little bit better once these guys are healthy and ready to go, specifically Vaughn Grissom, who I think is going to add a lot to this Red Sox lineup, and Refsnyder, who obviously had a huge role in the Red Sox over the last couple of years. But overall, I mean, in terms of injuries, this is kind of sort of best case scenario where a lot of these guys are trending in the right direction in terms of their way back to Major League Baseball. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? Which one of these injuries is most important to you? Who do you think is going to have the biggest impact on the Red Sox being on the IL? And what do you think overall of the injury status of the current team? Let me know all your thoughts on the latest Red Sox injury news in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. You made it to the end here, you might as well hit that subscribe button. You also might as well hit that like button as well, because it helps these videos out a ton and it would mean a lot to me. Don't forget, if you want to listen to these episodes as opposed to watch them, make sure to head over to Spotify where you can get this in audio form. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.